but I didn't really understand your story because I didn't know about it, right? And then you start speaking on it a little bit, and I'm like, dude, we gotta have you on the show. So like, give the audience a small peek behind who Brad Miller is and what you have gone through, and then we can expand on it, throughout the show. But give them a little.
Sure. Certainly appreciate having this opportunity. So first and foremost, I've had many colleagues, friends, associates, and family members along the years always say, "Hey, Brad, you need to tell your story." There's a lot of detail out there that could really connect with people that have gone through similar situations, or maybe even are going through similar situations. And I never seen the purpose to do that. I'm a pretty closed person for the most part, not real big into social media and things like that. I'm more private than anything else. But I think today I found a purpose by meeting you was my opportunity to maybe share my story, connect with others, and just give back, just simply give back. So I'll try to condense this very long 46-year story into the window of opportunity time that we have today. So, growing up, I grew up in a very depressed town, Sharon, Pennsylvania. It's not even a blip on the map for most people here in Florida. I grew up with two parents that had never worked. They had no professions, not McDonald's, not fast food, not the gas station.
Just nothing.
Nothing. So my parents learned the survival technique off of the system. And that's what I was taught at a very young age. So while most kids were going and playing after school or doing their homework, my mom was taking me on the city bus, and we were going to churches and learning how to basically solicit the churches that, we didn't have money, we were unfortunate, and they would give us free food, blocks of cheese, loaves of bread, things of that nature. So that ran up until about 9 years old. So those are kind of like the hard knocks of my youth until I was about 9. So I didn't have a lot of parenting, obviously, at a young age. My parents didn't have the capabilities. God bless them today. They didn't have the capabilities to really provide support, love, understanding, and direction for me as a youth. I believe today that they did the best they could with the skill sets that they had. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough for me. So I at 9 years old, I had a road of destruction. So start getting in a lot of trouble.
At 9?
At 9.
Like my daughter, Alina's 8, and Alina. Like,
yeah. At 9 years old, I would already have been arrested probably 15 times.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, for everything that you can possibly imagine. So finally, I went to court for my last hearing, and the president judge of Mercer County, Pennsylvania, he looked at me and he said, "Okay," he said, "enough's enough." He said, you're a repetitive offender. We've got to make some changes. So he incarcerated me.
At 9?
At 9 years old. And I remember that day because he asked my parents if they had anything that they would like to say. And my parents basically turned away and left the courtroom. So at that point, I was in handcuffs and shackles, and they took me away. And then I spent the next 7 years on my own. So Christmas, birthdays, Halloweens, no visitors, isolated to a block as a youth.
Hold on. And in the audience, I want you to tune into this. Like if you're driving and you got all the things going on in your mind, literally lock the fuck in right here. So you, from 9 years old, you were incarcerated, and you were incarcerated for the next 7 years.
Yes. So at 16 years old, if my math serves me correctly, at 16 years old, I went back in front of the judge with an opportunity to be released. My parents they were forced to attend this hearing, and the judge said, my father and my mother, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, your son has obviously done his time. We'd like to give him an opportunity to reintroduce him to society. And I remember this, this is ingrained in my brain. My mother stood up and she said, "It's not my child." So they got up and they walked out of the courtroom, which left me in a very unique position. I had no parents. I had no associated family that could pick up the pieces, no aunts, no uncles, no grandma, grandpas. So one of my youth friends, before I got incarcerated, their parents was kind of like an adoption family. They stepped up. They had heard about my case and situation, and they decided that they were going to bring me into their home. So this was a home with about 15 children, and these people were basically doing it for the passive income, right? So they really didn't have maybe the intent of trying to foster children to put them in a better place. It was more like passive income because they needed it too. They really weren't what would you consider successful parents. So I got out. They released me and back out into society. But they released the person back into society with, again, no support and no infrastructure.
And it's like almost like the same situation you were in that got you, I don't want to say caused you to do those things, right? Because you made the choice as a youth. Right?
That's right.
And your frontal cortex isn't fully developed at that age,
right.
Obviously. That goes without saying. But here you are at 16, reintroduced to society, and literally in the same type of environment with people that didn't know how to make it on their own.